the impact we have on society, it's a great thing and it's a great responsibility. And it's also excellent PR work for Islam. And really, you might agree that Islam, more than many things now, also needs good PR, public relations, right? Needs some public marketing, and needs someone to represent its image in a wonderful way. For example, in America, there's a group that paid $60 million to portray Islam negatively in the media. $60 million to portray Islam negatively in the media. Now, if we were a united Muslim community, all the communities, if they were like united like that, they would easily put up their 60 million and they would counter that. But we can barely raise $1 million for a house of Allah. There's a masjid, we have to do 6 fundraisers. First time, 100,000, 200,000. We do another fundraising. Finally, we're able to build a masjid, which is one of the most essential parts. By the time you build the masjid, everyone's drained. Okay, everybody, wake up. We need to now build the school. Allah, the school. Like, what about other things we need? I mean, now, and again, sorry, I'm speaking from an American experience, that now that Muslims have been living in America long enough, problems we never considered have surfaced. For example, building homes for elderly Muslims. Now there are some elderly Muslims who don't have children and so on, and they're going to be put in homes. And now we're suddenly waking up to this, realizing this, that we need to place Muslim homes. So on top of schools, on top of masajid, it's a lot of work. So I tell you, if the enemies of Islam spent $60 million to negatively portray Islam in the media, how can we counter that? We're barely able to gather enough for the masjid, which is essential. And we're going to come back to unity, or maybe we'll start it in this one. So just the image of Islam, and there's so much that can be done, and let's not discount how important it is to represent Islam nicely. And we know that Islam reached many, many parts of the world without lifting a single sword or shooting a single arrow, but it was just through good conduct and good behavior. Good conduct and good behavior used to bring people to Islam. Merchants who were honest and fair and just would bring people to Islam. And they're not like giving pamphlets and there's a website go to. They didn't have any of that. Just from their mannerisms, that was enough to bring people to the deen, which is really amazing. And now with websites and pamphlets in different languages, Quran translated in so many languages and apps, and we're still not able to have the same impact. Because, obviously, the manners aren't exactly there. I don't want to keep it too negative. But there was a police officer in an Islamic center in America, and I used to see him for 9 years. Same police officer. He's not Muslim. And every Jum'ah he's there. And I always look at him every Jum'ah and I say, if this man becomes Muslim, he will be a walking miracle on earth. Because of the bad manners he sees every Jum'ah. He sees people punching each other, like physical fights, bad words, also pushing and shoving. A guy will eat and throw the chicken bone on the floor and then throw the fork on the floor. The amount of unruliness that he sees, just unbelievable. People double parking, all kinds. So, there was a time when a man would be tied to the masjid, so the conduct of the believers would bring him to Islam. And then there's a time when you're not ready to introduce someone to the masjid yet. If I bring him to the masjid now, it's too soon. We have people come to the masjid, they get smacked. Or sisters coming to the masjid, they don't know that there's a men's section and a women's section, but when she enters the men's section by accident, they shoo her away exactly as if a goat entered the men's section. The same language. They shoo her away like that. Imagine someone thinking of this religion, and then she does her best to put on some kind of hijab, and she puts her longest, garments on and everything, and she comes into the men's section happy, and then she's shooed away like an animal. What kind of PR is this? And I was referring to Thumam ibn Uthal radiallahu anhu. He was one of the leaders of Thaqif, and he was captured, and the Prophet ﷺ had him tied to the masjid because he's confident in the conduct of those companions, and he sees them, how they behave with each other, how they behave with the Prophet ﷺ, and how they pray, and he sees how they're poor, but they bring him their food before they eat, and all that. So on the third day, the Prophet ﷺ let him go. He went, took his shahada, bathed, and that's it. Became Muslim from the conduct. And maybe you've heard this. This is a true story, but it's happened a number of times where people became Muslim, then they went and visited the Muslim lands. One of them, they asked him his reaction. He said, Alhamdulillah, who introduced me to Islam before I saw the Muslims. Some of you are nodding. And these things, wallahi, they hurt. Wallahi, they hurt to say this. But if you see the conduct in some places, you think, let me tell you something. Something really amazing. It's a dua of Musa alayhi salam. It's really an amazing dua. It's a wise dua. It's a very foresighted dua. Musa alayhi salam, he's making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, and he asks Allah Azza wa Jal, وَلَا تَجْعَلْنَا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. So strong. Don't make us a fitna for those who disbelieved. What does that mean? Fitan, trials, a test, anything that will pull you away from the truth, right? So if you look at an average non-Muslim, what are the things that are pulling him away from Islam? What's pulling him away from Allah Azza wa Jal? It could be many things, right? It could be shahawat, desires that they want to pursue. Islam will stop them from drinking and stop them from this and that. And they want these desires. So when they learn that in Islam you can't do that, it's a fitna for him, right? Imagine on top of all the fitna that they already have, there's another fitna. And that is whenever he looks at the Muslims, they don't look right. They don't look like they have the truth. They don't look like they have the proper conduct. They don't look like they're the chosen people. They don't look like they're the best ummah. Isn't that a fitna for them? Yes or no? It's huge, wallahi. And so many people now, they're arrogant because they're living in Europe or in the West in general, in a relatively comfortable situation. And they're saying, how can you guys be the best people? Look at the Middle East and look at your countries and look at the problems you have. And even without foreign intervention, you guys are fighting each other and all that. How are you guys the best? And we have Jesus Christ, we have love, and we have turn the other cheek. Okay. So you see what happens then? Then our conduct becomes a fitna. That's such a very, very serious thing. That when my behavior is one of the things that will stop someone from becoming Muslim. And that's why we can never discount the importance of good mannerisms, good akhlaq, and good behavior and good conduct. Again, if Islam went to the majority of the world just through good conduct, then there must be something wrong. Just good conduct. One time I was watching a documentary, or some interviews with toll booth operators, just like the bridge that we took here. There was in the manual booth. There was a guy. You give him the money and all that, right? And there are a lot of toll booths in America. They're very, very busy. And they asked people who work in the toll booth, what's the worst part of this job? And they all said the same thing. All of them said the same thing. They said that nobody greets you. Nobody smiles. Nobody behaves like there's a human being inside the toll booth. And this is in America. And Americans are very friendly people. Don't believe the movies. Americans are very polite, very well-mannered, very nice people. Movies, that's just nonsense. Very nice people. Okay. Nicer than the British, but then again, who is not nicer than the British? Anyway, or the French, or whoever you want to. Whoever you don't like, put it in the blanket. So they said that that's the only. So I just thought to myself, imagine if the Muslims were always smiling, because that's how we should be, always smiling. Now people think religiosity is this. You keep a good frown on your face, mashallah, that's a good religious brother. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was never like this. وَكَانَ هَشًّا بَاشًا لَا تَلْقَاهُ إِلَّا مُبْتَسِمًا. Just relaxed and easy, and you never see him except that he's smiling. When he entered the house or a room, the mood will change. Everybody becomes happy. He would enter and greet this person and joke with this person, say something nice to this person. That's how when he entered his home. And compare now to fathers when they enter the home. Before the father enters the home, what happens? The birds are singing, there's some butterflies. Children are singing cute songs around their mother. Then the father comes home. Then the butterflies go away, and the birds stop singing, and the children stop their songs. And he comes, what's the first thing he needs after coming back from work? Especially the Arab dad. What does the Arab dad demand when he comes back from work? Food. Then he eats the food. He might do a quick check on what did you learn in school today? Did you do your homework? Then he eats it, and then there's something else that's very important that comes after food. Could be either or, right? So what's the news? Or sleep. And if he sleeps, do not ever, under any circumstances, wake up the Arab dad when he takes his nap. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Things are falling, 5 cups fall, you catch all 5 of them. My father is asleep. Anyways, but Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wasn't like that. And what I'm trying to say now is that, so imagine two toll booth operators noticed that the people with beards and the man with the wife on the other seat that wears hijab, they're always very friendly. Everyone else in the population ignores me, but I notice these people specifically are very friendly. And then they start to look into that. And then they start to admire this religion. And we can go a long way just from our conduct and our mannerisms. And so when the masjid moves into a society, or Muslims come into a society, everybody's happy. Oh, the masjid's here, the Muslims are here. There's going to be no crime, there's going to be this, it's going to be safe, it's going to be... But it's sad that in many countries at least, I don't know about Denmark, but in many countries when the masjid comes to town, people object and they don't want it, it's going to cause this, congestion and traffic and all that. But the effect from us is supposed to be great. And I wanted to start with this because this is who we're supposed to be, and that helps us see ourselves as how we're supposed to see ourselves. They tell you that the best way to control a people is to control how they see themselves. Understand? So that's why I kept saying we don't want to make it too negative, we don't want to make it too negative, because there's so much good in the ummah. And a lot of times we only hear about the bad. What happens when you always hear about the bad? You start to think that everything is bad. Let's be honest. How many people in your life have you met that go to Hajj and come back and talk about good things in Hajj? Well, let's be honest. In my life, I know just one person. I only met one person who went to Hajj and came back and talked about how quickly people will take the debris, the rubbish is removed quickly, and how they kept... Because look, consider that there are 2 million people in a small area, right? But a lot of good work happens in Hajj. But those who haven't gone to Hajj are nervous about Hajj. Why? Because your brother who went to Hajj last year came and told you, and a guy stepped on me, and a woman pushed me, and this guy bit me, and they tell you all the bad things. Not only that, we also send the worst videos about Hajj. You know, just a few days ago, someone sent me a video of this man who wants to kiss the black stone, right? Now this is a negative video, but when you send that, it's like, oh, that's all that happens. And this guy was like, yeah, his selfishness was another level, and he actually literally climbed on top of people's heads, and then he got to the black stone while he's on top of 3 people's heads, and he started going like this, touching the black stone, kissing his finger. Like, kiss your finger at home, man. He came to kiss your fingers here. He just started going like this. Then, wallah. And I have it right now on my phone, but it's just embarrassing. And he just started crawling over people. Like he's at a rock concert or something. Crawling over people. And these Muslims are trying to push him away somewhere in the end. 4 of them opened up and the guy broke him the floor. So what happens is you only hear the worst. That's why from the wisdoms, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir, falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut." Whoever believes in Allah in the last day, he should say that which is good, or he should be quiet. Because if all we talk about is bad, then people think, well, that's all. There's only bad in this ummah. There's only bad that comes out of people. There's only bad experiences in Hajj. But that's not the case. People always speak about the leadership in the communities, the board members, this negatively. So people think, oh, well, masajid are run by the worst people. But it can't be the case. Can't be the case. But people only talk about the bad. So there's a lot of good, I'm saying. And we just need some PR where people show the good that comes out of it. And I'll give you a last example, then we'll pause and then do our second half. I was in a masjid in some state in America. We gave some kind of lecture, and then they said after the lecture, the board and the imam, everybody wants to meet with you in the meeting room. So I went to the meeting room, and this story is about your image. It's about the image, right? So we sat down, and they said, we need to consult with you on an issue. We got permission from the city, and we're going to close the road in front of the masjid, and we're going to get the carnival that have the games and the Ferris wheels and all that, and it's going to cost us a lot of money, and we're going to have them out there for the weekend, so people can come for free. That means they're spending a lot of money so that people can come for free and play and get to know the masjid, Muslims and Islam and all that. We want the largest number of people to come. So what advice can you give us to ensure the largest number of people, because we're spending a lot of money? So okay. So now, before we get into marketing techniques and how to sell it and all that, we have to ask some very important questions. And that is, the lesson is, you have to consider your reputation. What is your reputation? And I don't know this masjid, so I asked them, what do the people in the community think of you? They said, oh, they think we're terrorists. So why did they think that? They said, well, after 9/11, some small newspaper wrote that this is a terrorist masjid, so we're just known as the terrorist masjid. Fine. Now, do you think, like, since you're known as a terrorist masjid, can I give you any technique to make people come to your carnival? Yani, can you hear the conversation in non-Muslim homes in that neighborhood? Oh, did you hear? The terrorists have a carnival next weekend. Let's go. Who wants to go to a terrorist carnival? Do you want to go to one? You get on the Ferris wheel, maybe they unloosened it, you roll downtown. Who wants to go to that? So I said, look, Danny, I'm suggesting you cancel. You don't spend all this money, right? And you have to engage in PR first and fix the image and the reputation of the masjid. So how do you think we can do that? It's simple. Okay, it might take a couple of weeks, it might take a couple of months, but you start to show who you are to the people. And by the way, one of the golden rules of PR is that you have to let people know who you are before someone tells them who you're not. Because if someone tells them who you're not, to undo that, it will take 10 times more work. You understand? Yani, if someone calls you a mubtadi', to change that, it's going to be a lot of work. Whereas if someone's introduced to you as who you are, it's just khalas. Hello, my name's so and so. Khalas. It's that. But they tell them that you're this, you have to work and explain why I'm not. In 1973, I did this, and I worked with them. Try to explain it. So what we're going to do, get people in the musallin, the people in the masjid, men and women, and we're going to do a neighborhood cleanup. So it's not going to be da'wah, we're not going to call people to Islam directly, but we're going to give indirect da'wah. So we're going to walk around street by street in the neighborhood, Saturday morning, and you see these people wearing wherever they're wearing, and they're picking up trash from the street and sweeping the roads and everything, street by street through the neighborhood. And when they see people, they just plug the sponsor, that's all. Yani if Faxukundi spends, $1 advertising its name, it will tell you that this is brought to you by this is the time to take it. So like if Pepsi Cola spends $10 at an event, they will have to let you know that Pepsi Cola spent $10 here, brought to you by Pepsi Cola. So we always say plug the sponsor. Always do that. And do a good deed and throw in the name of Islam right there. So you can just be walking around picking up trash in the street and just greeting people. Good morning, how are you doing? We're from the local mosque, whatever the name of it is, and we're just cleaning up the neighborhood. That's it. So that person will be standing there watching all these Muslims, men and women, cleaning up the neighborhood, street by street. And they'll think to themselves, well, it doesn't really sit well that they're terrorists. What kind of terrorist is involved in street cleanup? No, we don't know a qaida to do that. Qaida will be like, today we're going to clean the roads. That's not really a normal activity for a terrorist. That's interesting. Then maybe a few weeks later, you come back and you knock on people's doors. Do you have any non-perishable food items? We're collecting money, food for the poor and all that, canned food, whatever, stuff like that. Then you come a while later, do you have any used clothing where, we're getting people clothes together for the needy? They're going to think, well, they can't be terrorists, these people. Cleaning up the neighborhood, they care about the poor, they care about the hungry, they're feeding the poor. Now that you fix your reputation, maybe now when you spend all that money for the festival or the carnival, maybe now people think, well, they're nice people, they seem like good people, we'll go. Okay? And there'll always be some who think, no, they were just trying to get us into the... But that's the idea. Plug the sponsor, right? I always tell people, if you help an old lady with her groceries or something like that, and she says, thank you, young man, you say, well, don't mention it. It's my duty in Islam to help the elderly, to respect the elderly. Plug in Islam. Why? Because you might help her with her groceries, and when she goes, she'll tell her grandchildren, those Sikh are such nice young men. I don't know who you are. You'll be surprised at how little people know about this deen. So my friends in Canada, they were giving da'wah in the street, and they had a big table. And the table said, free Quran. Free Quran. And this old lady came to them, and she said, excuse me, what did Quran do exactly? She thought Quran was some guy who's in jail, and these guys are trying to free Quran. But wallahi, and you see what we're dealing with here. So, there's the big picture, and then there's what we would like to. But sometimes it might just be you smiling at people, and you just giving. You literally are an ambassador, or figuratively, I guess, an ambassador to Islam. And if I could always keep that in the front of my mind, that I'm representing this deen. Wallahi, I'm representing this deen. And you know how it works. Okay, maybe it works the same way in Denmark. But in America, if a Muslim guy robs a bank, a Muslim guy robbed the bank. If a Christian guy robbed the bank, a man robbed the bank. And your religion is blamed for everything you do. I have a friend who is very aware of the fact that he's representing Islam. Whether you want it or not, you're representing Islam. So he says, if I'm late going, he wears a kufiya like this, right? So if I'm late going somewhere, I know I'm going to drive what they call road rage, and I'm going to cut people up. So the first thing I do, I remove then I start driving like a madman. Because now, it's just some crazy guy. But if he's wearing this, you see how the Muslims are. Muslims. And he learned this lesson. He said, wallahi, one time, I cut off this man and his wife, and I'm wearing this hat. He said, when I looked in the rearview mirror, I could read the man's lips. I could read what he's telling his wife. The man was telling his wife, you got it? You see? Muslim. Khala. 10,000 Christians cut you off like that. The one day was a Muslim. Muslims cut you off like that. This is our scenario. This is our situation. Of course, our sisters, they're more aware of the fact that they're representing Islam more than us. Sah? Okay, some of us with beards look Middle Eastern, so you're representing Islam 24/7. Some of us with beards look like hippies and rock and roll, I don't know, heavy metal guys, white guys. So, but we have to be conscious of this idea. This is on a smaller scale. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to discuss some of the internal obstacles that are stopping us from the inside of the Muslim community, from being as Allah intended and as great as we could be, and having the impact that we should. Jazakumullah khair for your attentive listening. Sallallahu wa barak ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.